cannot tell a lie. I love a crystal. I love a lot of crystals, but any crystal will do. And so if I have a beautiful component of a piece and I can throw a crystal on it, I'm gonna do it. So I've already done a video on how to create a peyote tube toggle. So my little peyote tubes, useful for other things than toggles, but I use them a lot as toggles. I'll throw a link up so that if you don't already know how to make the little tube, you can follow that link to the video that shows you how. What I'm going to show you today is how we can embellish it and throw crystals on either end of that toggle bar, just to add a little extra sparkle and decoration and gorgeousness. So let's take a look at the beads. So here I've already created my little toggle closure, and so this is 10 beads wide by 10 rows, and then I zipped it up. When I went to go end off the tail thread, you'll notice that the tail thread's gone already. When I went to end off the tail thread, I went ahead and bridged that one little gap that you have left over on one end when you zip this all up. So what I'm left with here is my working thread, and it's coming out of one of these seed beads on the end of my tube here. So what I want to do is I want to center a crystal right down on the other side of this tube. So I want one here and I want one here, and I want it to be centered. So if I come out one of the seed beads, it's going to be way off to the side here. I don't want to do that. So all I'm going to do here is take my needle and thread and pop it right down the center hole of the entire tube. Now my thread is centered on this hole. I'm going to pick up my crystal. In this case, I'm using a 3mm. A 4mm will work also with this. The beads in this toggle closure are size 11s. So a 3mm or a 4mm will work. And then I need a bead to sit on top of that crystal to keep the crystal from falling off. So I'm picking up, in this case, another size 11 seed bead. You could use a size 15 seed bead, or you could even use a picot of 3 size 15 seed beads, so you can get even more decorative. In this case, I'm just going to do a single bead. I'm going to bring those down so that they're sitting right on top of that hole. I'm skipping the seed bead, and I'm passing back through the crystal and down that entire center hole, like so. So now that's sitting right like that, and when you use the 3mm, it is partially indented a little bit into the whole end. So we're going to do the same thing on this end. I'm picking up the crystal and a seed bead, bringing that down so that it sits right where I want it to be. I'm skipping the seed bead and passing back through the crystal and then through the entire center hole. I like to, and I was able to get my needle through that crystal on the other end again. I like to reinforce this back and forth a couple of times because since this is sticking out a little bit, it's going to get knocked around quite a bit. So my rule of thumb is I want 3 passes of thread through here. So I'm going through the seed bead, back through the crystal. There we go. Straight down the center, through the crystal and seed bead on that side, skip the seed bead, back through the crystal. So you can see that this doesn't take long at all to do this reinforcement, and it makes a big difference with strength here. Like so, back through the crystal. So that was my 3rd pass on this side. And then one more pass through these guys over here. My seed bead's kind of sitting off to the side. If that really bothers you, you can kind of use your fingers and make it stand up like a little soldier. Through the seed bead and then back through the crystal. And then that was the end of my reinforcement. So I'm ready to end this thread off. I like to end the thread off in the, let's see if I can get this other tip to sit nicely here. There we go. Just using my finger to kind of bend it up. There we go. So I like to end off my thread in the tube itself. So what I'm doing is, as I'm going through that crystal, I'm going about halfway through the tube, and then I'm kind of just angling my needle. There we go. I'm angling my needle so that I can poke it through anywhere, any of the beads in the tube. So it comes out on the outside edge. And now I will just go ahead and weave off this thread like I normally would in peyote. So that just means I'll go up a couple beads on the diagonal so that my thread doesn't show. Like so. Oops. Pull it. Now I'll come over to the bead right next door and go down a couple of beads. I'm actually working in a figure X, which gives it even more stability because I'm crossing the thread over itself. So I'm making sure that the thread doesn't catch anywhere as I tighten it down. And then let's change directions one more time, coming over one more bead and going up. Let's see here, wait a minute, it's coming out here, bottom here, so I can go in bottom over here. It's getting a little tight in there, so I can only kind of move one bead at a time, which is fine, totally fine. And I know that this now at this point is completely and totally secure, so I'm ready to snip this off. And there is my extra decorated toggle closure, and I'm ready to attach it to my bracelet or necklace or whatever. So it's a really simple and fast way to add an extra little bling, and can't we all use a little extra bling in our lives? Happy beading!